what's people's feelings on benefit security. No short-term distribution feature, which is best practices. A lump sum payment at retirement. What about taking the money over a period of time, compounding money? So I figured this is an ideal. Then I looked further and I noticed $50 million was in the plan, all in mutual funds. As I wiped the drool off my paper, thinking this is ideal. If I wrap those mutual funds in corporate-owned life insurance, it's like a home run. This company's a full taxpayer, did that in my research. If they simply wrap those in mutual funds in COLI, they could produce a couple $1 million to their bottom line. I mean, just based on like a 10% return from their portfolio, paying income taxes on the realized gains in the portfolio, this was ideal. What do you think would have happened if I would have called the company and talked about what my discovery on the non-qualified plan? If you're at the company and you're real busy on other things and this is not a high priority, what would you say to me? We're happy with our current provider. But we already looked at that. But we already looked at that. But we already know that. It's like nothing I could say would have got me in that door. So back to the point someone made earlier, what keeps the CEO up at night? I open up the public information. Anytime you deal with a public company, look down the letter that the CEO writes to shareholders. And I read the letter. And the letter basically said we have a high growth strategy. Remember growth strategy? We have a growth strategy. We're trying to build 150 new stores in the next 3 to 5 years. And 25 of those stores are new box stores. Okay. What I don't know, where are the store managers coming from? Are they coming internally or are they coming from outside? Do you have any turnover of your current managers? They had 225 stores. Is there any turnover of those? So what else, if we're thinking, brainstorming together, what have they tried? You know, they know they've got this issue. What have they looked at to try to recruit these people? Where do they think these people are coming from? Is there a difference between the big box store managers and everybody else? Do they have a training program internally to help people? So I go have this meeting. And in the meeting, they said, and I love when you go to a meeting and you're going to find this, if you can craft these questions, you know you're going to hear these words all the time. That's a very good question. Oh, that's a very good question. You bring up a good point because that's what people, when you ask good questions, people say. So I said, you know, it looks like you currently have about 225 managers. Do those stores also have assistant managers? Yes. Okay, so assistant managers. What's the longevity of a manager? Do you have a high turnover? Do you keep people? Then you go, oh, we got a turnover problem. We lose about 30% of our store managers every year. 30%. 30% of your managers. So what happens if, have you ever run an economic analysis to determine what the cost of turnover is costing the company? Now, what's this got to do with deferred compensation? Because I'm leading them to my product, not leading with my product. Yeah, we kind of looked at that. We don't have anything formal. Well, let's use the whiteboard. How much do you spend on training? How much do you spend? Let's do it. So we came up with this chart to talk about what happens if you could reduce the turnover from 30 to 15. Well, that would be worth $2.89 million a year in savings if we could do that. So if you could come up with a program, now I'm going for their vision. If you come up with a program to reduce the turnover, that's one thing. But how are you going to hire the new managers? That's another problem. We're out looking, and so what have you tried? Well, we've thought about offering them a one-time stock grant. Tell me a little bit about that. Can you explain the details behind that? What's the thought process? Whose idea was that? So now I'm gathering this information through my questioning process. And we got to the point of, well, we're thinking about maybe a cash bonus instead. What was that analysis? What did that look like between cash and restricted stock? What's the pros and cons? Well, restricted stock, we're giving up dilution and so forth. So we're going back through this whole thing. And now as I frame this up, they see this as a major issue. I'm thinking, where are they in their decision-making process, right? They're in the understanding phase, right? Cognition thinking, where they're thinking about possible alternatives. They're about ready to go into the second phase. I knew they didn't nail a decision yet. Got in the back of my mind, deferred comp is the solution to this. because I can get them another couple $1 million of real money from wrapping the mutual funds in the COLI, that they can use the couple $1 million to provide incentives to get the new managers. So I said my process is what we'd like to do, and I demonstrated credibility, I demonstrated knowledge of their business, I did research on their competitors, which is easy to do. Anybody in the business, they're in the construction business, look what type of construction, you know, pull out the yellow pages, or actually the internet today, which is easier, and you can find out and you can ask questions. Are you competing against XYZ and ABC and so forth? Try to get an idea what they're doing. So I pull those data together, and I get them to agree to hire me on a fee, my 4-step process. We go through the collaboration process, we got our sleeves rolled up, and we're going through this thing. And I said, you know, one other alternative we should look at is you have a non-qualified deferred comp plan in place. Can you give me a little history behind that? And you have $50 million in the plan and so forth. And they tell me a little history about how it got started. It's with a mutual fund company. Nobody really owned it. So I was hoping that we'd have a champion. Nobody's brother-in-law was the person doing it and so forth. So I went through, and that's your brother-in-law theory. So then we come back and I said, you know, if I were a participant, especially if I was a 30 to 35-year-old participant in the plan, who are these new store manager types that you're trying, I wouldn't go near your deferred comp plan for 4 major reasons. And then I noticed everybody's pen come up and like, what are the 4 reasons? I go, benefits security, number 1, you don't have a rabbi trust in place. Short-term distribution features, not allowing me to get access to my money earlier. Even when I get closer to retirement, you don't give me an option to take the money over a period of time and really capitalize what a good deferred comp plan. I believe the solution that we're looking at between cash and restricted shares could be accomplished in your non-qualified plan. If we can reconstruct the current non-qualified plan, add these features, give people a one-time signing bonus with a deferral feature where they could get the money in 3 to 5 years, depending on what we agree on, then they could have the money then for their signing bonus, or they could re-defer it for an additional 5 years and keep moving it out. We constructed this thing, now it became everybody's idea, we got our hands on it. They took it upstairs and they sold it, and we wrapped the mutual funds and COLI. But had I led with that, it was not the right deal. So message of that story is basically do your research, find out what's important, lead people to the product, don't lead with the product as it relates to, you know, now do you look like a value-added provider? Now who am I competing with? The guy that says he can revamp their deferred comp plan. We're not really interested in doing that right now. We got other issues about growing these stores. That's what my issue is. My issue is growing the store, not the deferred comp plan. They go, but the solution could be the deferred comp plan, but you need to lead them up to that with discussion.